You're watching South Asia Newsline, and here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Friday, the 5th of December. Modi-Putin summit in Delhi, India reiterates side of peace as Russia seeks stronger ties. Pakistan elevates Asim Munir as first chief of defence forces in major power shift. And Bangladesh court issues arrest warrant against Hasina's son. And now for all the details. Russia's President Vladimir Putin on Friday held a high-stakes bilateral summit with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and signed key agreements to foster ties. The meeting came as India navigates geopolitical pressure, especially over its Russian oil imports and defense purchases. Putin in his remarks said that Russia is ready to provide uninterrupted fuel supplies for India. We have a report.
Russia's President Vladimir Putin received a ceremonial guard of honor at the Rashtrapati Bhavan alongside Prime Minister Narendra Modi as began a packed day of engagements in New Delhi on Friday. Putin's two-day trip, his first visit to India in 4 years, aimed to boost trade with the top buyer of Russia's arms and seaborne oil as Western sanctions have squeezed their decades-old ties and amid U.S. tariffs on India over its purchase of Russian oil. Inside Hyderabad House, bilateral talks took center stage. Indian Prime Minister Modi reiterated India's consistent message on the Ukraine war, saying, "India is on the side of peace. The welfare of the world is only through the path of peace." President Putin, in turn, thanked Modi for what he called India's attention in finding solutions to the Ukraine crisis, noting that trust and deep historical ties guide the partnership. After delegation-level talks, Putin said Russia is ready to provide uninterrupted fuel supplies for India. He also said many agreements aimed at strengthening Russia-India cooperation were signed during the talks.
Excellency, यूक्रेन के संकट के बाद हमारी लगातार चर्चा होती रही है। आपने भी समय-समय पर एक सच्चे मित्र के रूप में हमें सभी चीजों से अवगत कराया है। मैं समझता हूं कि ये विश्वास बहुत बड़ी ताकत है और आपको मैंने अनेक बार इस विषय की चर्चा भी की है और विश्व समक्ष भी मैंने रखा है कि विश्व का कल्याण शांति के मार्ग पर ही है। हम सबको मिलकर के शांति के रास्ते तलाशने चाहिए और पिछले दिनों जो प्रयास चल रहे हैं, मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि विश्व फिर से एक बार शांति की दिशा में लौटेगा। एक्सेलेंसी, पिछले दिनों विश्व समुदाय के सभी नेताओं से जब भी मेरी बात हुई और उन्होंने जो विस्तार से मेरे चर्चा की, मैंने हमेशा कहा है कि भारत न्यूट्रल नहीं है, भारत का पक्ष है और वो पक्ष शांति का है। हम शांति के हर प्रयासों का समर्थन करते हैं और हम शांति के हर प्रयासों के साथ कंधे से कंधा मिला करके खड़े हैं।
Thank you for the attention aimed at finding a solution to this situation. Our relations are deeply rooted into history, but it is not the words that matter, it is the substance of the matter which is very profound. We really appreciate that and the fact that you, ex-Prime Minister, pay special personal attention to that.
At the India-Russia Business Forum, economic and defense cooperation dominated the agenda. Moscow hopes to push bilateral trade to $100 billion by 2030, and is eager to expand defense exports, including S-400 missile systems and Su-57 stealth fighters. PM Modi underlined that India-Russia bilateral trade target of $100 billion could be achieved earlier than 2030.
पिछले वर्ष राष्ट्रपति पुतिन और मैंने 2030 तक द्विपक्षीय व्यापार को $100 बिलियन का उस लक्ष्य को पार करने का हमने निर्धार किया था। लेकिन कल से मेरी जो राष्ट्रपति पुतिन से बात हो रही है और जिस प्रकार के पोटेंशियल नजर आ रहे हैं, मुझे नहीं लगता कि हमें 2030 तक इंतजार करना पड़ेगा।
Putin was later in the evening scheduled to meet President Draupadi Murmu before concluding his visit. The Russian leader earlier in the day also paid tributes at Rajghat Memorial dedicated to Indian freedom struggle leader Mahatma Gandhi.
Moving on, Pakistan has undertaken one of its most consequential defense restructurings, with the Shehbaz Sharif government appointing Field Marshal Asim Munir as the country's first Chief of Defense Forces. A notification issued by President Asif Ali Zardari confirmed that Munir will retain his position as Chief of Army Staff while simultaneously heading the newly created office of Chief of Defense Forces for 5 years. This dual role consolidates unprecedented authority under a single uniform, giving Asim Munir sweeping control over defense operations, policy making, and military institutions. The announcement comes after weeks of political negotiations. Officials say the notification was delayed due to internal bargaining involving the military leadership and PMLN patriarch Nawaz Sharif, with Chief Minister Maryam Nawaz also influencing the discussions. While the government calls the post a structural reform aimed at streamlining defense management, analysts warn it further entrenches the military's dominance in Pakistani politics, especially after the 27th Amendment. Far from reducing interference in civilian affairs, they argue the move locks the country's security architecture into the hands of one man for the foreseeable future. And Afghan refugees stranded in Pakistan fear intensified expulsions from Pakistan amid the Trump administration's decision of halting processing of green cards and citizenship petitions from 19 travel ban countries, including Afghanistan and Somalia. A report.
Afghans stranded in Pakistan say the U.S. decision to pause immigration applications has crushed their hopes of relocation and left them exposed to possible mass deportations by Islamabad. Earlier this week, the Trump administration halted processing of green cards, citizenship petitions and special immigrant visas from 19 travel ban countries, including Afghanistan and Somalia.
ये बहुत शॉकिंग था, एक ट्रॉमेटिक सिचुएशन था, जो हमारी उम्मीदें थी, जो आरज़ू थी, उसके ख़िलाफ़ निकला। ऑलरेडी यहाँ पाकिस्तान में अफ़गानिस्तान के अवाम जो यूएस केसेस का इंतज़ार कर रहे, काफ़ी मुश्किलात का सामना कर रहे। ये एक उम्मीद का रास्ता था कि हो सकता है इस केसेस के थ्रू पाकिस्तान का गवर्नमेंट भी कुछ रिलीफ दे दे हमें, लेकिन अब जब उन्होंने ये फ़ैसला कर दिए तो वहाँ से भी हमारी जो एक उम्मीद थी इमिग्रेशन का वो ख़त्म कर दी है, और उसके साथ पाकिस्तान की गवर्नमेंट को भी उन्होंने एक ग्रीन लाइन दे दी है कि ये लोग हम यूएस रिसेटल नहीं करवा रहे, आप कर सकते हो कि इनको डिपोर्ट करवा दें।
Refugees say that this step by the Trump administration has derailed years of waiting for those who fled after the Taliban takeover in 2021. Afghan refugees fear Pakistani authorities may now intensify expulsions.
I'm sad about my future. Because of this, I can't reach to my hopes that I want to be an athlete and a journalist. It's impossible to Pakistan or Afghanistan. Please consider this ban. Afghan people like me are just looking for safety and chance to rebuild our life. And we accept war and danger. I ask the US government to show compassion and protect people who needs help.
The International Crimes Tribunal of Bangladesh on Thursday issued an arrest warrant against ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's son, Sajeev Wajid. The tribunal issued the arrest warrant in a case against him for committing crimes against humanity during the July uprising, an ICT prosecutor told reporters. The student-led protests known as the July uprising toppled Hasina's Awami League regime in August last year. The uprising paved the way for Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus to become the chief advisor of the interim government in Bangladesh. The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights reported 1,400 deaths between July 15 and August 15. The figure included the outcome of retaliatory violence against police and Awami League activists. In Sri Lanka, survivors of Cyclone Ditwa are still reeling from the country's worst flooding as rescue efforts expand and thousands remain displaced across hard-hit regions. We have a report.
People in Sri Lanka broke down as they described the aftermath horror of floods triggered by Cyclone Ditwa and survival. The deadly cyclone has caused Sri Lanka's worst flooding in a decade, killing 479 people and leaving 350 missing, according to government data. Around 1.2 million people have been affected, with tens of thousands of homes either destroyed or damaged.
මම දුක් මහන්සියෙන් අපි දෙන්න ගොඩාක් අමාරුවෙන් ජීවිතේ ගැට ගහගත්තේ. ඒත් බින්දුවේ ඉඳන් ආපහු නැගිටින්න වෙනවා.
Villagers sheltering at a community center in Cathalbetta on Thursday requested for authorities to check the safety of their houses before they return home, after the deadly cyclone lashed Sri Lanka last week. Nearly 200,000 people were forced into shelters after Cyclone Ditwa swept through large parts of the country and brought heavy rains and floods.
දැන් ටික ටික ආධාර හම්බෙනවා. ඉතින් අපිට ආධාරම විතරක් නෙවෙයි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ අපිට මෙතන පොළොව ඉන්න සුදුසුද නැද්ද කියන තීරණය එනකම් ඉන්න තැනත් අනාරක්ෂිතයි. අපිට පොළොව භූවිද්‍යාවකින් ඇවිල්ලා මෙතන සුදුසුද නැද්ද ඒ පණිවිඩ එනකම් අපි තවත් මග බලාගෙන ඉන්නවා.
India's foreign ministry said in a post on X that New Delhi is continuing large-scale humanitarian assistance to Sri Lanka under Operation Sagar Bandhu. A second IAFC-17 with Bailey Bridge units, engineers, and medical teams landed in Colombo on Thursday. Indian field engineers have begun reconnaissance and road restoration on key cyclone-hit routes to reopen access for affected communities.
Moving on, Nepal's political crisis has intensified, with the Supreme Court issuing a show-cause notice to the interim government this week. The order responds to a petition filed by former PM KP Sharma Oli's CPN-UML, which challenges both the formation of the interim administration and the dissolution of the House of Representatives. Oli was ousted on September 9th following the violent Gen Z-led protests over corruption and a social media ban that left 76 people dead. After the ouster, former Chief Justice Sushila Karki was appointed interim Prime Minister on September 12th on the recommendation of Gen Z protesters, and simultaneously the parliament was dissolved. Fresh general elections are scheduled for 5th of March next year. On Wednesday, the top court's constitutional bench directed all respondents to submit written explanations within 7 days. The court will hear the new petition alongside about a dozen earlier cases questioning the legality of the House dissolution and the interim setup. The CPN-UML contends that Karki's appointment violates constitutional provisions barring a former Chief Justice or a non-PM from becoming PM, and has demanded restoration of the dissolved House. That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time next week. Have a great weekend. Good night.